Morning. Good morning. If you're watching this, it is still morning. Hi. If you're watching the recording, hello, whatever time of day it is for you. So here we are on the mat on a Sunday morning, and as they say, the early bird gets the worm. And that's us amazing ones. We are the early birds and we're getting our job done. So hey, today we're going to start in the seated position on your bum. We're actually going to start with sitting down with your legs out in front of you with your knees bent, because today is all about trying to find that where is your lumbar spine. So a lot of the time when I start working with a beginner or somebody who is not even a beginner in Pilates, but somebody who could be really strong and really into a certain sport or something really athletic, they tend to have no idea about how to move the pelvis or how to move a lumbar spine and what works where, and have lots of compensation patterns in their shoulders or their jaw, holding their breath, or maybe even a stronger muscles, that are global muscles, the intrinsic muscles, the muscles that are closer to your spine. The smaller muscles tend to get a little bit left out. So a lot of today is going to be about, the next 20 minutes is going to be about finding this lumbar spine, your five bones, 5 vertebrae of your lumbar spine, where they begin and where they end, finding that association, that it's not just one thing, your spine. There's lots of little areas. Even if your thoracic spine here has lots of parts to it that can feel a little bit disconnected from the rest of the thoracic spine. Okay, so where does your lumbar spine begin? You notice it starts where your ribs begin, or end where your ribs end. So T12, thoracic 12. Thoracic 1 is up there, so you've got 12 bones. And then it goes your lumbar spine, lumbar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it becomes your sacrum. There's 5 fused bones of your sacrum here, the triangle of bone here, that sits between your iliac crests. Your hip bones are at the front of the body here. You find the little bones at the front of your body here, a part of this big bone here. We call all that your pelvis. Okay, so quite nicely sits there in the middle, and you can see that there's nothing really attached to it. There's no other bones that are attached to your lumbar spine. Lots of muscles attached to your lumbar spine that help it do this side bend. It hasn't got much rotation. It's only about 5 degrees, if that, of rotation. Most of the rotation comes from here in your thoracic spine, yes? And we forget how to turn from our thoracic spine. So a bit of rotation today, and we tend to overuse our lower back for rotation. And that's why sometimes it complains, because that's not really what it's for. The lumbar spine, its main job is to flex and extend, forwards and backwards. And that's where we're going to start, having this flexion and extension. And flexion helps, the flexion comes from the muscles here that attach up here and come down into the pubic bone and help you flex. Obviously it needs to talk to the back muscles as well. They talk to each other, front and back. So when you're extending, the back muscles help it do that. And when you're doing side to side, you've got lovely muscles here on the side that come up here, come down to the side on top of the pelvis. Quadratus lumborum is one of my favourite muscles. I just love the name because it sounds like it's a Bond villain. Quadratus lumborum. Helps you do a little bit of side bending. Okay, enough nonsense. But sometimes when this isn't working properly, this can overwork, but even your neck can overwork as well. Sometimes you can overwork the neck, compensation for the lower back. Now you can see that. Thomas Myers' amazing work on anatomy trains, when you really get into understanding it, which can take quite a while, and may have to go on a few courses to understand it. So it's very interesting and fascinating how it all fits together. This is the deep front line, where it all connects. Deep front line. Took me ages to understand all of this, but it's very interesting how it all, can you see how the inner thigh connects up into the psoas, the lumbar spine, the diaphragm, your breathing mechanisms around here, hopefully, coming up into your scalenes, up here into the neck muscles, the radius scapula coming into the jaw. So your jaw can also, you can see on the side of the face there, the temporalis. You can get headaches or jaw pain. Can come from all the way down here. So the way you sit, very important. The way you breathe, very important. All connects at the end of the day. Also, your feet are also very important in your foundation. Okay, so that's about 4 minutes of me talking. Let's move you out of the way because you, there you go, moving the comments so I can see what's going on. So sitting, put your hands underneath your knees, and you can have your feet and knees together, or you can have a gap. But if you have a gap, make sure that you're not just letting the knees fall out like that. The gap stays the same. So if you find that hard, you can bring the knees together to find that connection. Feet can be flat on the floor or on your heels like that. So hands underneath the knees, your elbows are soft. So if you pull with your hands, I go to the side so you can see me. If you pull with your hands, you start to feel that your chest is lifting, and you'll be coming up to a tall spine, so you're off your tailbone. So if you were against a straight wall, your sacrum will be touching the wall, your mid-back, shoulder blades, hopefully, and the back of your head. The gaps would be at your lumbar spine and your neck. So now let's press the middle of your back into the wall. Middle of the back into the wall. And start to keep pressing into the wall as you straighten your arms. And then you come back up. So we're just beginning to warm up and being aware of that lower back. So as you press that mid-back into the wall behind you, you start to feel what's happening in your sit bones. So those bony bits at the base of your pelvis, what's happening to your sit bones. So as you roll back, you notice that you're coming off your sit bones and you're rolling onto, where I showed you on the skeleton, the sacrum between your iliac crests here, your hip bones, your iliums. Iliac crest is a bit at the top here where your hip bones are, and the ilium is the name of each bone, iliums. I-L-I-U-M, ilium. So you learned something new today. So if that question ever comes up on Mastermind or New University Challenge or a quiz show, you can get points for that. Thanks. So feel where you're moving from when you roll back off your sit bones and you start to press back with this mid-back. You're not really thinking about what's happening to your face or your head, it just follows. And then notice what happens to the front of the body. The pubic bone starts to come toward your rib cage, so you shorten at the front and then you lengthen the front as you come back up. So you start to shorten at the front of the body when you come down, and then you lengthen at the front of the body when you come up. And your arms are helping you. You can use your hands to help pull you back up. And you straighten the arms as you come down, and you bend the elbows as you come back up. And just notice your nose is drawing that line. The nose drops down towards the belly, and the nose draws that line straight ahead of you. Lovely, just rolling away from the legs, hip bones move away from the legs, hip bones come back towards the legs. And then stretch the legs out and give them a shake. Lovely, let your feet roll in and out, let your feet just roll in and out if you can see what I'm doing. Lovely, in and out, in and out, in and out. Okay, so I'm going to keep my legs straight. Now if you find it tricky to keep your legs straight whilst trying to stay off your sit bones, trying to stay off your tailbone, and bend your knees a little bit. So from the side view it's going to look like that because your hands are going to come forward. But let's stick the hands forward on the floor for the first one, because you're going to just drop your chin towards your chest and you're going to go forward. So hands on the floor, drop your chin down towards your throat, towards your chest, and start to keep rolling the head forward as if your forehead is going towards your knees. Your fingers can just trace a line down the sides of the mat, and then you come back up The last thing to come up is your head. Lovely. So if your legs are out straight, being aware that your feet, you're trying to be in the centre. So your toes are facing, pointing to the ceiling. Drop the chin down to the throat. Forehead feels like it's going towards your knees. You walk your hands forward and you walk your hands back. And then see if that feels awkward, your hands can go on your legs. You can do the same movement, dropping your chin to your throat, forehead towards the knees, and the hands start to trace down a line in front of your legs towards the front of your foot. And then you come back up. And that's quite nice, isn't it, with the hands on the legs? Because it starts to open up your back here. Starts to open up the back as you reach. You feel like you're reaching more with your little finger, so you're not lifting your shoulders up towards your ears. And as you come back up, lower back comes up first, then the lower ribs, and then the rest of your body. So you get that tilting from the hips. Chin drops, you're off your tailbone. And then let's try a couple of repetitions with the arms out in front of you. Like Frankenstein, dropping the chin down towards the chest, forehead towards your knees, rolling away from the wall behind you, trying to reach for your toes. Check your toes are facing towards the ceiling. And then with your lower back, come back with your lower back, lower rib cage, mid back, and then the back of your head. So let's do one more, so check your shoulders are soft. So if you prefer your hands here or here, do that instead if it hurts your shoulders to be here. Chin drops, forehead towards your knees. Move your hands if you want to onto your legs or onto the floor. And then slowly roll yourself up. And then bring your hands behind you. Lift your chest bone and bend your knees. And let both knees just go to one side. And then come back and change sides. Stay lifted, so you're not sinking down into your hands. Can you see what happens to my back and my chest? If I sink down, everything up here shortens and tightens. My neck shortens. So keep your heart lifted to the ceiling as your knees drop from side to side. So the heart stays lifted and you're kind of allowing the floor to support you. You're allowing the floor to support your hands. So you're not really sinking down, you're not pushing the floor away. It's helping you stay lifted. Stick your chest towards the ceiling. Ladies, stick your tits out basically. Stick your boobs up. So then we have this kind of, maybe when you're a teenager, maybe you're embarrassed for when things like that started to form. Maybe you felt a little bit like you want to hide everything and this becomes a habit and we tend to roll our shoulders forward and feel that we want to stay hidden, which creates a lot of issues in the shoulder and the neck and the chest. So it's trying to lift your heart up. Think about your heart being, it wants to be seen. It's a happy heart, it wants to be seen. It wants to see what's going on in the world. That the collarbone stays wide, the chest stays lifted, and the heart is just having a little look around. It wants to see the sun. And then come back to the centre. You might need to bring your pelvis back a little bit. Can you pick up one foot? Can you change feet? Can you switch? Can you switch? Okay, so I'm going to pick up this foot and with my opposite hand I'm going to touch my foot. And then I'm going to change sides. I'm going to touch my foot. Your knee can go out to the side to touch your foot. So you start to allow the top of your leg, your femur, to rotate a little bit inside your pelvis so the heaviness of the knee drops out to the side. Can you feel your knee dropping out? Yeah, and if you can't reach your foot, maybe you can reach your calf. Maybe you can reach the back of the calf. Maybe you can reach the front of the leg on the shin. So you're not overly rounding to get there. Try and keep the head in the same position. Okay, so in the next one, let's see if you can hold what it is you've got hold of. If you've got the leg here or the foot, and see if you can start to open up the back of the knee a little bit. Can you create some space in the back of the knee? Can you stay lifted so you're not sinking into your ribs? Change sides. Can you hold on to the other side? Either onto the leg or onto your foot. Can you stay lifted? Can you open up the back of the knee a little bit? And then bring it back down. Come towards the front of your mat. Put your hands underneath your knees. Feel the crease in the back of your knees. Bring the legs together and pick up your feet. And see if you can hold your balance as you drop the chin towards your chest. Can you roll back onto your shoulders? So I'm going to turn around so you can see what's happening with my back. And coming back up. Rolling, rolling. And pause for a moment. I'm going to move onto my side. So just have your hands underneath your knees and pick up your feet. Just pause in the balance. Notice the gap between here and here. Your sit bones, the back of your leg here to your heel. Can you keep the same distance, the space here? Can you keep it the same as you roll? So your legs don't open up, they stay the same. Keep that gap the same. And the gap between the knee and your chest, can you keep that the same as well? So let's do 2 more. Try and keep the gap the same. And then come back up and come into a seated position. So if you don't like to sit cross-legged, if your hips feel a bit tight and it feels like you're a bit rounded in your back, then you can put the soles of your feet together and sit like that. Or you can come up into a tall kneeling position and be like that, okay? So choose how you'd like to be for the next couple of minutes, which position. And you're going to put hands flat on your chest bone and the other hand on top. Let your elbows feel heavy, as if they're just sliding down towards your legs or towards the floor. And we're going to keep the pelvis still and your lower back still. We're going to work on that thoracic spine. So remember from that spacing, we're going to work from here. Okay? And that's where you're going to turn from. You're going to turn to one side, come back, turn to the other side. And we're just going to keep this little bit of rotation going. So the hands staying heavy and secure, feeling quite safe on the chest. And then start to bring your attention to the back of the body. So when you turn to your left shoulder blade is trying to kiss your spine. It's just trying to gently move towards your spine. And when you turn to your right side, it's trying to kiss the right shoulder blade is trying to kiss your spine. Just notice the gap, the space between your spine and your shoulder blade as you turn. The space decreases as you twist. As you turn to one side, the shoulder blade decreases, the shoulder blade space decreases. So here, between your shoulder blade and your spine, there's a gap. Lots of muscles in there, it's not just nothing there, but you're thinking about decreasing that space as you turn, not from up here, middle to the lower shoulder blade, pulling gently as if it wants to kiss your spine. So the hands are here just to help focus on what's happening in the middle of the back. So you don't overwork the arms to turn. Your focus can be on that thoracic, amazing rotation. Okay, so let's confuse you a little bit and turn without taking the head with you. So the head's not coming with you. So it means when you go to the other side, you have to turn the head in the opposite direction. So the tendency is when you do this is to lift your shoulder blades. So let these elbows stay heavy, heavy elbows. And the chin stays level, as if it's on a tabletop. So your nose, feel where is your nose? It's always on the same line. If you tend to drop your head, your nose will be going towards your shoulder. So don't let your nose go towards your shoulder. And don't let it go towards the ceiling. I've got itchy nose this morning, talking about noses now. And then come back to the centre. Okay, so if you're in that tall kneeling position, come down onto the mat and put your feet together on one side, so your knees are on top of each other, and put one hand on top here. Take the other hand up towards, if you're trying to pick up something, and pick an apple off a tree, trying to reach for that apple. Can you get it? Can you get the apple? And then let that apple reach over. Just gonna take it over, okay, overhead, and bring it round. And see if you can take a bite. Take it back up towards the ceiling. Reach, put the apple back, bring your hand down. Soften the elbow, let go of your leg, reach this arm over. Now if you find it quite tricky to be in this position, you might need to, can you grab a cushion? Maybe you can grab a cushion or a roll up blanket or something like that and put it underneath this hip. I'll show you what I mean. So it raises this hip, oh that's nice, it raises this hip a little bit. Yeah, so if you've had any hip surgery or injuries around here, or even any scars and injuries around surgeries around here, around the abdominals, you might find that raising your hip a little bit will help you come into the position a little bit better. You're just going backwards and forwards. But notice as you reach over here to take that bite of the apple, this side of the body shortens and this side of the body lengthens. And when you come over to the other side, that changes. The other side that was short is now long, and this side is shortened. So let's do the other side. So take that away, if you've got something underneath there. Bring the feet over to the other side, just like that. Not always that easy to do that, is it? And see if you need something on that side. If you find it easy to be here, then you don't need anything underneath that hip. But if it starts to cramp a little bit, or it feels a bit tight, or you feel like you need to hold on to it, then use something underneath there just to lift you. And then reach for that apple. Can you reach? How long can you make that side from your armpit to your hand, to your ribs, to your hips? How short can you make that side? Reach over, take a bite of your apple, reach back up to the tree, bring it down, soften the elbows as you reach over. See, now you're lengthening this side. Ooh, show everybody your armpit. Come back, come over to the other side. Come back, open up the arm. Come back, open up the other side. And come back last time on the other side. Oh, lovely. And then take that away if you've got something underneath there. I'm going to put it at the front of my mat. I'm going to lie down on the mat now. So come and lie down on your spine. We'll come back to noticing the lumbar spine and the thoracic spine. So we started the session on our bums with the legs out in front, flattening and arching the back, moving the pelvis, and that's what we're going to do, lying on our backs now to finish. So put your hands underneath your lower back. Notice where your navel is, where's your belly button. Put your fingertips on the other side, and you'll notice that curve of your lumbar spine. Your thumbs, if your palms are down, your thumbs will be touching the ribs, and your little fingers will probably be touching the top of your pelvis. So if you flatten your back, if you drop the back to the floor, you'll be squashing your hands, and then arch the back so you come off your fingers. Nice, simple and easy move. But sometimes we lose contact with what's happening with it because it's at the back of the body, we don't think about it. So squash the hands and then come off the hands. Just rocking. Notice what's happening at the front of the body, the pubic bone coming towards the ribs. Notice your feet as well. So take your hands away and start to bring your feet into the move as well. So as your back drops down, so if your hands were still there, you'd be squashing your hands. Press the floor away with your feet, and notice that makes it, that connection with your feet to your lower back. So relax the pressure in your feet and arch the back, create space. So you could put your hands underneath, without any trouble at all. So you create more space at the front of the body when your back is arched and when your back is dropped down to the floor. Use your feet to push the floor away. Can you see that it shortens now at the front of the body? We create tightness here, and the muscles and the fascia, everything here shortens, and it creates, there's not a lot of space here now for your abdominals and for all your intestines now, and your liver, it gets compressed. So work through those two movements, arching and flattening, and notice the difference between one and the other. What happens at the back of the body affects the front of the body, but affects everything that's going on inside the body as well. The organs, how much space they have, how they talk to each other. And that can all start down at your feet. Oh yes, your foot position can affect your lower back. And then let it rest. Take the feet out wider than your mat, let one knee drop down in the gap. Come back and change sides. And let the pelvis now roll. So think of the back of the pelvis like a ball, and you're just rolling the ball from one side to the other. You also feel that the back of the ribs are like a ball, and they'll be rolling as well. As the knees drop in one at a time. Notice what happens to the feet as well as your knees move. And then walk the feet back towards each other, just so on the inside of the mat, and let the knees fall in. So your feet are in a position where they feel comfortable, so your knees can just fall in and rest on each other like a couple of playing cards, creating a little arc. And just rest there for a moment. Put your hands on your ribs and just allow the heels of the hands to rest on the outside of the ribs, on the edge, just before they go round to the back of the body. And see if you can breathe into the heels of your hands. Letting your shoulder blades rest. So imagine for a moment that's the only place where you can breathe. And just notice that can be quite tricky, because some of us breathe a lot into the belly or a lot into the chest. It can be quite hard to feel where the ribs are, what's going on there. So if you imagine that inside was a umbrella, and when you breathe into the heels of the hands, the umbrella opens, and then it closes. Like one of those automatic umbrellas, opens up, and then you have to close it with your hand, pull it back down to close it. So when you breathe into your hands, the umbrella opens, and when you breathe out, the umbrella closes. And then roll yourself over onto one side, rest your head on your hands. Just notice your breath for a moment. Allow your mind to notice, if it can, a heartbeat. And when you feel ready, use your hands to push yourself up. Good work, chaps. Thank you for joining me this morning on a Sunday, for not having a lie-in. Maybe you can go back to bed now and have a cup of tea. Go back to bed with a cup of tea, a bit of breakfast, and maybe you'll fall back to sleep and you've got a busy day. It's nice and sunny outside. Maybe go outside for a walk, get some sun on your face. Thank you for joining me. See you next week.